Hi there, my name is Gary Prout, and today what I'm going to be talking about is how I went from being one of the highest decorated soldiers in the British Army to being an absolute victim laid on my bed, having no idea what was going to happen tomorrow. So my kind of journey starts right back in the early 2000s. I was working as a gym instructor in Belfast. I went into the gym one day. I noticed that nobody was actually on the machines, the exercise machines. They were all stood around the two big TVs in the center of the gym. So I went in, had a look at the TVs, and before our very eyes, 9/11 was unfolding. One plane had already hit one of the towers. And as I was stood watching, the second plane hit the second tower. And I can remember thinking to myself, this is so unfair. These people got up this morning. They went to work. It was a normal working day. They said goodbye to their families, and this awful thing came to them. And I pondered over it for quite a bit that day, and I can remember saying to myself, so if this is so unfair, what are you going to do? Just sit and saying it's unfair, that's going to do nothing. What are you going to do? And I decided to join the British Army. I've got lots of family history within the British Army. My great grandfathers on two separate branches served. We've got four generations off service. We're still currently serving to this day within my family. And everything that I had always heard my family talking about was always about protecting people, helping people, doing the right thing by them. Only a couple of years before, my brother had actually been to Kosovo and done an unbelievable job out there in really testing circumstances. And I thought to myself, if I feel this is so unfair, I need to serve. I need to be willing to go to other countries and prevent these horrible things from coming to our shores. And there and then on that day, I phoned the Army recruiting office. I joined something called the Royal Artillery. Um, and I was like chosen quite quickly to do a very specific job within the Royal Artillery. Now, my role was to go forward with the infantry, with the fighting troops, and to support them. And the support I would give them was I would fire the artillery pieces from 20 kilometers away and land it dangerously close to myself and to those infantry troops I was supporting. And as I joined up, our world was evolving, our world was changing very quickly, and we went from that single role of just firing artillery to all of a sudden creating a fire support team, as we called it. And our job was to coordinate that artillery, but also to manage the airstrikes as well from the aircraft up above. We'd launch guided multiple launch rocket systems from nearly 100 kilometers away. Commercial airliners would have to be diverted. We would also use different kind of target acquisition and equipment, things like drones, and we would coordinate and gather intelligence using all of those different things. So it was a really high pressure job. It was one where you had to make lots of calculations, and you had to do them under immense pressure. And any mistake you made in those calculations, that could lead to the loss of life. That could lead to the loss of life on yourself, to your friends, or the thing that really worried me was the civilians. I used to be an innocent civilian in a counterinsurgency in Northern Ireland. So that was the biggest thing that absolutely resonated with me. So being on top of your game at all times was absolutely crucial. I'd served overseas on a number of occasions. I'd served in Iraq in 2005. I was part of a force protection group for a close protection team, so the bodyguards for one of the most senior British soldiers out in Iraq at the time. I would class that as an absolute success because I did not fire one bullet in 7 months. Nobody in my team did. We managed to do our job to the best of our ability, and the fact we didn't fire a shot, we decided that was a success. In 2007, I deployed to Afghanistan, which was a completely different battlefield. Enemy attacks, full frontal, they would try to flank, they would try to overrun your position. This was real trench war fighting kind of situations. But I'm going to talk in specific about my experience in Afghanistan in 2009. I was attached to Royal Welsh, in specific Charlie Company. We were going out there to work in an armoured infantry group, So we would have the big armored vehicles. We would drive from location to location and support the troops who were on the ground by giving them protection from the armor, and also an additional bit of fire support from those vehicles. And from those vehicles, I would then be coordinating the artillery. But the other members of my fire support team would be doing the air, the communications, all of those kind of things. So it was us kind of going out and supporting all across the Helmand province in southern Afghanistan. And whenever we arrived, the reality was very different. And we got speaking to the group we were taking over, and they had been static in a company location for the whole tour. So we kind of looked at each other and we were like, this is going to be very different. We're not going to be an armored infantry group. We're going to be a ground fighting troop. We're going to go in and try to dominate a bit of ground. And we had only been in the country. We had only really been out on the ground for 7 days, and we experienced an ambush that would change my life forever. We pushed forward into the enemy area. We knew we were going into what we would consider quite a dangerous place. But we were trying to move the enemy out of a village that they had taken over. The enemy had moved into this village. The civilians had moved out, and the civilians just wanted to get on with their lives. So we thought we can hopefully go into this area. We can put enough pressure on the enemy to make them get out, and hopefully we can get the civilians back in, because in an ideal world, we just wanted the civilians to get on with a normal life. We didn't want them to be in danger. We didn't want them to be in fear. We just wanted them to get on with things. So that's what we tried to do. On the night before, we had done what we call an insursion. So we moved into the enemy area without them knowing that we moved in. And all we were going to do was set up in a number of buildings. We were going to make it quite obvious that we were in this location. And what we were hoping was the enemy would wake up the next day. They would see us on these buildings and they would think, oh my goodness, we need to get out of here. Where did they come from? How many is there? We just wanted to create as much disruption for them as we possibly could. In an ideal world, we wouldn't have fired a shot. They would have just extracted. But the reality is very different to what we plan. We moved in under the cover of darkness. We took over 5 buildings. I stayed in the middle building because it gave me the best oversight of all of the infantry troops I was there to support. The infantry troops went forward into the closest building to the enemy. And everything went quiet. We sat and waited for the sun to rise. The next morning, the sun started to rise. I'm not going to lie, I was daydreaming a little bit. I was sat on that compound roof. I was overlooking an absolutely stunning piece of land in Afghanistan. A country of contrasts, really green where we were. In the irrigated area, there was kind of deserty hills off into the middle distance, just about 2 kilometers away, and then even further behind that there were these vertical mountains. They almost looked black because of the rock that they were kind of formed out of. And I can remember sitting there. I was a mountaineer at the time, and I can remember looking across this beautiful countryside thinking, wouldn't it be amazing to climb one of those hills? Wouldn't it be amazing to look down on this little patch of ground here and see how small it looks from up there? And then I seen like this wave coming towards me. And as the wave kind of hit me, I felt a thump in my chest. And I immediately realized it was the shock wave. It was the sonic boom of an explosion. I turned to my boss and I kind of looked at him and as if to say, what was that? Because it came from a place where our troops weren't going. It was beyond our closest troops to the enemy. And the radio went very quiet. I can remember thinking, this is a long time. I'm not hearing anything. And then I heard the words that would change me forever, which were casualty, casualty, man down, man down. I kind of looked at my boss and I said, I'm going forward to help. I felt very disconnected from the forward troops. I thought, if there where that explosion has happened, I don't actually know where they are. I can't control my artillery without knowing exactly where they were. I need to go forward. I pushed forward up to the next compound, up with the rest of the troops. And whenever I got into that compound, I found out the news that one of our soldiers were still out where the explosion had happened. Over the next couple of seconds, there was lots of confusion, lots of noise, lots of interference going on. But something kind of flicked inside me. I think it's something that we all have. Might have been a little angry person. It might have been somebody just wanting to do as much as I can do. And next kind of moment of awareness I had was I was running forward towards where the explosion had happened. And I was just trying to do everything I could do on that day. I don't want to get into the detail of kind of what happened next, just out of respect. But it basically led to one of my friends being killed. I have to give a huge shout out to a guy called Al, who saved my life pretty much on that day. And it was just this whole thing of, I knew no matter what I did, somebody had my back all the time. Somebody would be backing me up. And it's a humbling experience. It's a tough one. But that's okay, because I'm only human. What this gave me a real respect for life. A real level of humility, I think. I left, this sounds strange, I left Afghanistan after that year a far better person, because I knew how unpredictable life could be. I knew what a gift life was. And I kind of made a promise to myself that I would always live life to the max. Absolutely. So any day, whenever I wake up now at the minute, and I probably can't be bothered, I remind myself this is a gift. And I think that's a gift that only comes off the back of whenever you're measuring your life in seconds. And that's the truth. Whenever you're down to those seconds and inches and decisions mean the difference between life and death, you can do nothing but absolutely enjoy life. That's my interpretation. Now, my actions on that day, they got singled out, and as a result of my actions, I got nominated for an award within the British military. Now, the award system, I think, is unfair, because it doesn't recognise everybody. But I understand that, because if we recognised everybody, believe me, there would be so many people getting these awards, they would almost lose their significance. Everybody does amazing things on these tours. But I was singled out, and I collected an award called the Conspicuous Gallantry Cross. It's the nation's second highest award for gallantry. It's one below the Victoria Cross. And actually, whenever I think back to it, all of my years and years of military history kind of conditioned me and got me to a place where I would be to receive this award. My great-grandfather was awarded the Military Medal in Da Vinci in the First World War. My great-uncle was part of the Special Air Service. I'm working around North Africa in the Second World War. We just have so many family incidents of doing incredible things for your mates. And I believe that whilst I didn't feel like I made that decision, my values, my beliefs, the things that matter the most to me, they made me make that decision. I was in a great place in the military at that point. I had this incredible award. It made me one of the highest decorated soldiers in the British Army at that time. I'd done well on all of my promotion courses. I had done well on all of my kind of technical courses. And I got singled out and chosen to become an instructor for the new recruits coming into the military. So I went to a place called Army Foundation College, Harrogate. It's where 16 and 17-year-old young people, they join the military. And over the course of almost a year, we transition them from being young people to being fully competent soldiers ready to go forward to their regiments to learn their final craft to break into the field army. It's a remarkable course. It's different from what you would imagine military training to be. It's very much about coaching. It's about really encouraging these young people to take ownership and responsibility, and giving them a platform to be able to explore, is the army right for them? And you know what? If it isn't right for them, that's okay. And at the end of training, they can leave. And that's basically what it is. They also do some academic training, because quite a few of them maybe didn't embrace the education system as much as they could have. And we find that within the military environment, where there's a lot more discipline, a lot more responsibility, a lot more accountability, all of a sudden they embrace that academic side, and they tend to excel. And I know I did. I was very same myself. So there I was in Army Foundation College, Harrogate. I was teaching these new recruits. We were on our final exercise up in Scotland, and notice the way I said we, not they, because I was very much in the exercise with them, as one of them. We were up in Scotland, in a place called Gearlock Head. We just climbed up onto this mountain. I was stood asking my young recruits, what have you done? What is the reason you've done it? And I'm just trying to find out what are their levels of knowledge on the procedures that we do. And I was stood talking to one young soldier. I turned to talk to another one, and I heard a loud crack. And at this point in my life, I had never broken a major bone before. And I knew straight away that my lower right leg had splintered. The outside bone had splintered. And I quickly thought, I've got 30 kilos of weight on my back, and all of my weight is still on that leg. And I can remember the feeling of the weight coming down on top of my leg and the leg continuing to break. I was in a reverse turtle. I was laid face down. I had a lot of weight on my back. I couldn't get myself up. My foot was underneath my face. I can remember thinking to myself, it's okay. I've got these young soldiers beside me. They'll lift it off. Instead, what I seen was these young soldiers running away. And I can remember thinking to myself, what the hell are they doing? Why are they running away from me? And then I believe I can remember one of them saying, don't get distracted, do your job. And I realized they thought I was putting on a training scenario. They thought I was pretending I'd been shot, and they were doing what I had trained them to do all over the week's period previous, and they were getting into their fire position to help protect our position. Eventually, one of them turned around and said, I think I heard a crack. I agreed with him that he did hear a crack, and really slowly they came back to me and they lifted the weight off my back. Had a look at the leg, managed to get it in a position where it felt quite stable, and then we started the process of getting me off the hill and to the nearest hospital, which took over 2.5 hours. I wasn't aware of this at the time, but I went into surgery. I had an operation on my leg. It should have only took about 2 hours. I can remember them saying beforehand. 7.5 hours later, I came out of the surgery. I can remember thinking to myself, I need to phone my other half. I need to phone Millie and let her know what's going on. But this scared me. This scared me a lot, because I was 4 weeks to the day before my wedding. And I had to break the news to her that I broke my leg. I've had a big operation. I don't know what state I'm going to be in for the wedding. I really don't. Anyway, I came home. We decided we could carry on with the wedding. If you ask her, we didn't have a first dance. We had a first waddle. Some brilliant pictures of me dancing on crutches and trying to dance. But actually, whenever I look back at them, even though that being 4 weeks after the incident where I broke my leg, I look ill. I've lost a lot of weight. I'm very pale. I look like I'm suffering. And at the time, thinking back on it, I was suffering. I was in a ridiculous amount of pain. But I'd never broken a bone before, and everybody says it hurts whenever you break a bone. So, that's pretty normal. I can remember 2 weeks after our wedding, I went to the local hospital. They cut the cast off me for the first time. They looked at my leg and they went, ooh, this doesn't look right. What we're going to do is we're going to put you in a moon boot, one of those kind of plastic casts. We're going to take the metal out because we might have impinged something. We might have pinched the nerve or something in your leg. Over the next 6 weeks, what we want you to do is do as much rehabilitation as you can, get as much movement into your ankle, try to get as much strength into it as you can. And they released me to the rehabilitation team in Harrogate, who were absolutely superb. I went back to them. I would go and I would get manipulated for an hour every morning. I would then go from that manipulation and that building strength session across into the swimming pool. And I'm not going to lie, the reason I would go to the swimming pool is because you can't see tears in a pool. I was in absolute agony, in bits. But like I said, everybody says breaking a bone hurts, and here I had broken a bone. I got up to the end of that 6-week period. I hadn't noticed any progress myself. I went in to see my specialist again, looked at the leg, and he said, I need some more opinions. Can you come back to another appointment? And I said, yes. When would you like me? And he said, this afternoon. And this was still on the NHS, and the NHS are doing an absolutely incredible job at the minute, but they've always been stretched. Getting appointments takes a bit of time, and I knew whenever he said this afternoon, I thought, this sounds serious. I went back again that afternoon. I crutched into the room. I took my plastic boot off my leg, and I was sat in front of this kind of semicircle of specialists, and they turned around to me and they said, you're not going to walk again. Your career in the armed forces is over. We're going to cut your leg off. And I can remember sitting there thinking, you have to be kidding me. I've only broken a bone. And they sat and they carried on talking to me, but I didn't really hear a thing they said. I was sitting thinking to myself, things like, this isn't fair. I know people who have broken their leg, friends of mine who have broken their leg since me, and already they're back up and running. They're tabbing, they've got weight in their back. All of these people have recovered. I was sitting thinking to myself, I've just spent the last 10 years building up my military career. I have this award. I have my career pathway marked for years and years to come. All of this certainty I had in front of me, and it's all gone. I can remember thinking to myself, what am I going to tell my wife? How do I tell her they're going to cut my leg off? And I can remember thinking to myself, what job am I going to do? All of my qualifications, personal trainer, outdoor mountain leader, all of these kind of qualifications I had that transferred to Civvy Street, they were all gone. Everything, I could not do it in this kind of state. And they spent the next 90 minutes talking to me. I went home. My wife turned around to me and said, how did your appointment go? I said, it went brilliant. They said, I can start walking. I can really push myself. They've said I'm going to be running in a couple of weeks. In complete denial. I woke up the next morning, I put on my uniform, I went across to the camp to see the physios. I went into the physio room and they looked at me and they said, why are you here? And I said, I'm here to get better. And they said, we've heard from the specialists, we can't touch you. And they said, you've got something which is called complex regional pain syndrome. And if you've watched our previous videos, you might have seen this being mentioned before. They said it's the brain's reaction to you suffering a nerve injury in your ankle. Every sensation your foot feels, your brain perceives as extreme pain. And I said, okay, so how do we fix it? And they said, we don't fix it. We manage it. We can't touch you. The more pain your body experiences, the greater your pain will be. So instead of 4 hours a day of extreme pain, it might go up to 6 hours a day. It could even go from limb to limb if you experience it enough. And I can remember that just being hit by this bombshell, and the reality really hit me in this moment. And I said, so how do we manage it? And they took me out to the pharmacy and they handed me a carrier bag full of medication. One of them is an anti-epileptic drug, which messes with my brain's ability to speak to itself. So sometimes my brain has really, it's happening right now. My brain has a real challenge of communicating with itself, just sending the message to itself. This is what I want the mouth to say. Now say it. So I lose the ability to speak. And you might have noticed now, as you go back through the video, there's a few places where I've dropped in the wrong word. It can happen. And the other one was an antidepressant, which was superb with nerve pain. And the shadow side of that was that it would just put me into complete drug-induced haze throughout the day. So even if there was pain, I wouldn't care. The pain would still be there, but I wouldn't care. And they give me this little table and they said, go home. These are when you can take the meds. You'll probably forget if you've taken them. And the message was, live on your sofa, live in your house, get your army pension, maybe volunteer for a charity, maybe once a month, maybe do it remotely on laptop. But that's it. Your fight's over. I can remember going home, showing the wife the medication, explaining to her what had happened over the last 2 days. And she's an absolute rock. She took it on the chin, and she was like, yeah, things will be great. Things will be fine. Let's get you as good as we can get you, and then we'll figure out the rest whenever we get to it. Over the next couple of weeks and couple of months, I would love to give you an update of what I did. I can't really remember. I was in between kind of sessions at the medical rehabilitation centre, Headley Court, where they were incredible. Additional bits of surgery, convalescing at home after my intense rehabilitation sessions, and everything was just an absolute mist. And I woke up one morning, and success back in these days, whenever I was at home, was me getting up from the bed, me going down the stairs into the living room, and me managing to hoover one room in the house. That was my success measure. That was my goal for today. And I got up in the morning, I turned around to my wife, I said, can you pass me my meds? I'm in so much pain. And she popped the pills, she passed them to me. I took them, I took a drink, and she turned around to me and she said, goodbye, Gary. And I can remember thinking to myself, I've only been married to her for 6 months. And it sounds like I'm a different person who she planned on marrying. And that hurt hard. And I can remember thinking to myself, this can't carry on. This cannot continue like this. This is not a life. And I got up, I went downstairs, I got my laptop out. It was my only link to my friends at the time, social media. As much as some people criticize it, I think it's an absolute godsend if it's used properly. And I went into social media, I went on to Facebook, and one of my friends shared a video. And what that video was a challenge from a young officer in the British Army. His name is Prince Harry, or Harry as he now likes to be called. And it was a challenge. It was a kind of brain's doing that med thing again. It was a notification that said, I am setting up a massive international sporting event. There's going to be 14 nations they planned on. From all across the world of wounded, injured and sick soldiers. And we're going to bring you together in London, and we're going to create this event called the Invictus Games. Now, throughout this kind of launch video, there was lots of sports advertised. And one of the sports was archery. And as a junior, back between the ages of 12 and 18, I'd shot a lot of archery. I'd done an awful lot of shooting. I'd competed for the Northern Ireland junior team. And from the age of 14, I actually broke through to the Northern Ireland senior team. So I had quite a bit of kind of ability, quite a bit of skill in archery. And I can remember thinking to myself, wouldn't it be amazing to go to this event? Wouldn't it be incredible? And all of a sudden, my brain started chirping in negativity. My brain started saying, you've been on crutches for the last 8 months. Your shoulders are pretty sore. You can't do archery with bad shoulders. My brain was saying things like, you're in extreme pain. How are you going to concentrate? Archery is 90% concentration. You won't be able to concentrate. You can't shoot. I was thinking to myself, you can't drive. You can't use your right foot. How are you going to get the practice? If you can't practice, you can't shoot. And this is the point where I realized that I was a victim. Per me, why me? This shouldn't be me. And the person who I was in the military, they'd gone. I was always the person of, we can't do this. We need to apply work. We need to apply speed. We need to apply all of our ability to come together as one team in order to make this a success. And I always had complete belief in myself and the people around me whenever I was in the military. But right now, I was a victim. I didn't even believe in myself. And I went on to Google. Something was saying, you're a victim. get over it, get a grip of yourself. And I went onto Google and I Googled Paralympic archery. And a gentleman came up called Mark Stutzman. Please have a look at him on YouTube. He is the armless archer. He was born without arms and he took up archery. And in 2012, he won the silver medal at the London Olympics, at the London Paralympics. And it was a press interview that really resonated with me. He had just finished shooting. He had won the silver medal. He went into the press conference and a member of the press turned around to him and said, "Matt, do you find it hard to shoot without arms?" And he replied, "I don't know. I've never shot with them." And that was that real moment of inspiration where I suddenly turned around to myself and said, why are you being such a victim? Why are you closing down every opportunity before you've even explored it? And I can remember saying to myself then, so you've got bad shoulders. How can you shoot? And really simple things like I decided, okay, my shoulders are bad. What can I do? I can do press-ups in the house. I can do some resistance weights in the house here. These are things I can control. I can wake up tomorrow morning. I can do. And this sets me up in order to get to the Invictus Games. I woke up the next day. I took a couple less meds so I could do these exercises. And I started doing press-ups to strengthen my shoulders. Whenever I blew out of them and the pain came in my leg, I thought to myself, okay, now what do you do? I thought to myself, routine is so important. That shot procedure in archery, you need to get that down to a T. So I sat there, I closed my eyes, and I went through my mental shot routine. I was meditating. I was doing a sport that I used to love, and I was doing it from my living room. And this set in motion a little bit of momentum. And momentum is key. And you need to reinforce that momentum if you're going to use it in order to get to great places. And before I knew it, I had set myself up for success. The Invictus Games, Help for Heroes, the Army Benevolent Fund, they then came in and they then set us up for success with a support network in behind us. All of a sudden I was getting lifts down to my rehabilitation centre, down to the archery selection process. And before I knew it, I was shooting in the British Armed Forces qualification for the Games. Now, I managed to shoot really well. I managed to pick up a bit of the kind of skill, a bit of the kind of talent I had from before. And not only did I make it through to the team, but I got selected to be part of the captaincy. I was the team captain for the Invictus Recurve Archers, which was humbling. And all of a sudden, just with me starting to get a little bit of belief in myself, this was a recognition that other people had belief in me. Other people believed that I could achieve great things. And when somebody does that for you, that's life-changing. I can remember thinking to myself, what a privilege. I've seen the journey that I went on by myself here. And now as a team captain, I get to see the journey that everybody else has taken. And it wasn't always linear. It wasn't always started off down here and ended up in a great place up here. There were peaks and troughs. But you know what? If you have the right network around you, if you have the right awareness of what you're thinking and saying to yourself, you can pull yourself out of those troughs and get back up there again. I went to the Invictus Games. I shot in the qualification competition, which was 120 people. And I finished in first place, which meant that I went through to the 3-person British Army team. And I also went through to the last 16 of the individual competition. The team event was unbelievable. It was superb. I absolutely enjoyed it. I loved it so much. I was shooting with a guy called Gavin and another guy called Dave, and we just shot out of our skins. We managed to take the gold medal, which was incredible. And being stood on that podium, looking out across the crowd, I had loads of friends. I had family across there. We had celebrities and sports personalities in the crowd clapping and cheering us. It was a defining moment. I went through into the individual competition. I shot really well throughout it all, actually. I managed to find myself up against 3 Brits throughout the process, which was heartbreaking. I shot against Sam and Steve, moving up to the final position. And I took my seat in the final against another good buddy, Dave. So it's a pretty tough one. I prepared myself really well for the process of shooting against people. What I hadn't prepared myself was the emotion of shooting against people who were friends and teammates. So, it's very always a shadow side to it. You want to celebrate because you won, but you're also there thinking, oh, my mate's been put out of the Invictus Games, and that's not nice. In the final against Dave, I shot really well once again, but Dave put on a world-class performance. He shot out of his skin. I think it's the best I've ever actually seen him shooting. And he took home the gold medal, but stood on that stage with a silver medal. I had this sudden moment of realization of, you know what? This was the journey. It's not about the podium. It's not about the placement. It's not about these medals. Whenever I look back and I'm looking up to where I've got them stored, looking down to where I've got them stored, it's not the medals that I look back on and remember. It's the process. It was that change of mindset. It was that self-belief. That was the belief of others. And it was just a remarkable experience. We went from a position where we were living on our sofas. We were thinking about just collecting our military pension and what box set to watch next, to a place where we were in front of the world's media. We were in front of the British public, who were incredible. And we were performing in a sport event on the international stage. The British public nominated us, and we collected the Pride of Britain award. I think it was most inspirational team. We also collected the Sports Personality of the Year award for the Team of the Year. And I can remember being at the Pride of Britain Awards. I was sat there. I had all of these celebrities around me. It was an A-list of who's who. And I was in my uniform. I had my medals on. I can remember sat there looking around, just feeling like I was in a different world. And I can remember thinking to myself, you need to move on. You need to get on with your life. Tomorrow morning when you wake up, this uniform can no longer fit you. Not because the food was so good, but my identity had to change. I had to go from being Bombardier Gary Prout CGC to Mr. Gary Prout. I had to make that transition. And I did. I woke up the next morning. I never wore a uniform after that point. And it was one of the most liberating experiences I can remember in all my life. Throughout my recovery process, I was constantly thinking, how do I get back to who I was? And that morning I woke up and I was left with a blank kind of sheet, and it was, who do you want to be? And I can remember thinking to myself as well, there's going to be post-Olympic blues. There's going to be this dip after the Invictus Games. What are you going to do? And I went out and discovered who I am now. I managed to get a job placement in a massive company. I'm going to name them because they do incredible stuff with armed forces leavers. They're called Jaguar Land Rover. I went there for a 4-month work placement. It was 4-week work placement, and it ended up being 4 months. And again, it was this incredibly impactful kind of sequence of events of people believing in you and people just embracing and letting you do what you do best, accepting you for who you are. And that's led me on to this incredible place where I now work for an amazing company. I talk about my experiences with business leaders of some incredible businesses. And even though on occasions I don't have the self-belief that I'm capable of doing these things, the people around me, they support me, they challenge me, they believe in me. Oh my goodness, that is far more challenging and far more impactful whenever people around you believe in you and allow you to do your things. So, guys, how do I summarize the kind of journey I've been on? It's very difficult. Whenever I look back on it, I think to myself, whenever I was in Afghanistan, I was resilient. I was always ready to do the job I needed to do, irrespective of what consequence it had on me, for 2 reasons. One, I believe what we were doing out there was very important, and I believe that it was more important than my own life. Absolutely, genuinely. Number two, the people I was around. I wanted to protect them. I wanted to help them. I knew they had my back. Whenever I look forward to my injury and the impact it had on me, it is being aware of the people around you and what you're doing, the impact it's having on them. If I had not heard my wife saying that, my life could be very different right now. If those people didn't believe in me as I progressed through my recovery, I wouldn't be where I am right now. And also, something I wish I had done was use my perspective. Use that perspective I had from Afghanistan of, you know what? You've been in a situation where you've lived by the minute. This life you're living, whilst it isn't what it was before, this is still bloody good. You can still do great things. You can still lead an amazing life. And all of those things combined have kind of led me to where I am now. I got a bit of pioneering surgery done there about, I think it's 4 years ago now, where they put a small computer into my lower back. They hardwired this computer into my spinal cord. And what that's meant is that's brought my pain from a 10 out of 10 down to about a 6 out of 10. And it means that I've managed to keep my leg. I have some function in it. It doesn't work like you would hope. I can walk a little bit, I can shuffle. But it's also allowed me to reduce my medication. And the fact that I've reduced my medication has now got us to a place where me and my wife have managed to bring 2 amazing young ladies into this world, little Isla and Ellie. And it's absolutely changed my perspective on life. This new kind of place where I find myself. Whenever I think about what that means for me in this context now, I had the initial shock. I had the initial kind of disbelief. I had the initial kind of fear that goes with Corona. However, I pulled upon my reserves of what I've been through, what I've experienced, and looking back on some of my bleak times. And every time I've thought to myself, I don't know where this is going to go, I've always came out the other side. I've always hung in there, and things have always turned out good because I know I've got the right mindset to make things good afterwards. Don't get me wrong, it still leads to stressful and pressurized days. I sometimes believe that a family life is more stressful than life in Afghanistan, believe it or not. It's so complex, there's so many different things moving towards us. But I absolutely believe that we'll come out the other side. And already I'm seeing indicators, especially in my local area, of community. People coming together. Just being better, kinder people. How's your day going? Do you have everything you need? Is there anything I can do for you? It's unbelievable. And it's actually made me think that, you know what? It's made me realize that maybe things weren't as balanced as they could have been before. Maybe there was a few too many hours worked. Maybe there was searching for things, that we wanted to do, amazing holidays we wanted to go on. This downtime with the family has been hugely refreshing. And it's kind of made me think that, you know what, there's some things I'm going to change. There's some things I'm going to do differently after Corona. And I think life will be better for it. Guys, whatever you are doing, please stay safe. Wherever you are in the world, stick to the recommendations, the guidelines that your country is doing. Please encourage your families to do the same as you. I've got a couple of older people, my parents especially. I'm looking at you at the beginning of this whole Corona thing. They probably didn't take it as seriously as they should have been. They are now doing it with a little bit of encouragement from me and my brothers. So yeah, please encourage people to do the right thing. NHS, frontline workers, teachers, healthcare, care homes. Wow, I am absolutely humbled. I think Gallantry Awards is about opportunity rather than the individual. Everybody has the potential. You guys are earning these awards right now. Please keep up that incredible work. I hope you've taken something away from the video. Subscribe, hit that notifications button. We're going to have a lot a lot more content coming along, and please let me know, what have you taken away from my video? If you have any questions for me, please write them below, and I'll try to get checked in with you. Thanks very much for checking in, and I hope to speak to you very soon. Cheers now.